That's what 62 acres buys you. In Henley-on-Thames, England, hidden behind stone walls and iron gates, sits an estate that doesn't feel like it belongs in this century. 120 rooms sprawled across a Gothic mansion, underground caves with secret doors, a miniature Alpine mountain range built from imported stone, garden gnomes with grotesque faces watching from every corner, Latin inscriptions carved into rock. Hic habitat felicitas. Here dwells happiness. Beautiful. Yes, but that's just the carefully manicured surface. Behind these walls, a Victorian lawyer spent his entire fortune building a grotesque paradise and died broke in 1919. The estate sat abandoned for 51 years, vandalized, overgrown, haunted by rumors. Then, in 1970, a Beatle bought the ruin and became obsessed with restoring it. He spent millions recreating another man's dream. Then, violence. December 30, 1999, 3:30 a.m. An intruder breaks into the bedroom. A knife. 40 stab wounds. Blood on the floors of the house built for peace. The Beatle survives. Barely. Dies 2 years later, age 58. His widow still lives there, 23 years later. She cannot leave, she cannot sell. The estate that consumed 2 fortunes and nearly claimed 2 lives now holds her. Can beauty be cursed? And what happens when the place you build to escape the world becomes the place that destroys you? And the real question, why does Friar Park destroy everyone who loves it? And what dark secret does Britain's most mysterious estate still hide? If you enjoy investigations into obsession, Gothic estates, and the houses that consume their owners, please like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which mysterious estate you want explored next. Your support makes these detailed stories possible. Thank you for being here. Let's begin. January 30th, 1843. Frank Crisp is born in London, England. He is not born into wealth. His father is a businessman, respectable, middle class, but not rich. Frank is brilliant, obsessive, odd. He studies law, not because he loves justice, but because he loves precision, the exactness of contracts, the logic of arguments, the architecture of legal reasoning. By the 1860s, Frank Crisp is a successful solicitor, British term for lawyer who handles contracts, estates, corporate law, not courtroom trials. He specializes in conveyancing, the legal process of transferring property ownership. It is tedious work, detail-oriented, obsessive, perfect for Crisp. By the 1870s, Crisp is wealthy, not aristocratic, but rich enough to live comfortably, invest, indulge his eccentricities. And Frank Crisp is very, very eccentric. Frank Crisp has 3 obsessions. 1, horticulture, gardening, botany, exotic plants. Crisp joins the Royal Horticultural Society. He travels Europe studying gardens. He becomes obsessed with Alpine plants, flowers and shrubs that grow in the Swiss Alps. But he doesn't just want to study them, he wants to recreate the Alps in England. This is insane. The Swiss Alps are mountains. England is flat and temperate. Alpine plants require specific conditions: rocky soil, high altitude, cold temperatures, excellent drainage. Crisp doesn't care. If the conditions don't exist, he'll create them. 2, microscopy, study of plants or organisms under microscope. Crisp is an amateur scientist. He owns high-quality microscopes, expensive in the 1870s, 1880s. He studies plant cells, algae, microorganisms. He publishes papers. He's respected in scientific circles. But his real interest is aesthetic. He loves the grotesque beauty of microscopic life, the alien shapes, the uncanny symmetry. This aesthetic, grotesque, whimsical, unsettling, will define Friar Park. 3, Garden gnomes. Yes, garden gnomes. In the 1870s, 1880s, garden gnomes are a new fad in Britain, imported from Germany. They are ceramic or stone figurines of dwarves, elves, gnomes, placed in gardens as decoration. Crisp loves them. He sees them as whimsical, playful, a counterpoint to the seriousness of Victorian society. He collects hundreds. Most Victorians find them vulgar, lower class, tacky. Crisp doesn't care. He will cover his future estate with them. The dream takes shape. By 1889, Frank Crisp is 46 years old. He has made a fortune from law. He is never married. He's too obsessive, too odd for Victorian courtship. He decides to build his magnum opus, a Gothic mansion surrounded by the most elaborate, grotesque, whimsical garden in Britain. He purchases 62 acres in Henley-on-Thames, Oxfordshire, about 35 miles west of London. Perfect. He names it Friar Park, after a small monastery that once stood on the site centuries ago. And he begins building. Frank Crisp hires architect Edward Boardman, not a famous architect, but competent. The instructions: build me a Gothic mansion, spare no expense, and the gardens, I will design them myself. The mansion. Construction 1889 to 1896, 7 years. Style, Neo-Gothic revival. Dark stone, gray, imposing, pointed arches, Gothic style. Towers and turrets, castle-like. Stained glass windows, carved stone gargoyles and grotesques. Size? Estimates vary. Crisp was secretive, records incomplete. Some sources, 30 rooms. Other sources, 120 rooms, including servants' quarters, underground rooms, hidden spaces. Reality, likely 60 to 80 rooms. The mansion is large, but not built more scale. Features: Great Hall, 2 stories high, wood-paneled. Library, Crisp's scientific books, legal texts. Multiple bedrooms, though Crisp lives alone. Servants' quarters, Crisp employs 20-plus staff. Underground tunnels connecting mansion to gardens. Secret doors and passages. Crisp loves hidden architecture. Cost to build? Estimated £100,000, 1890s pounds, equals roughly $15 million today. This is enormous for a bachelor's private residence. Most Victorian mansions this size are built by aristocrats with families, titles, hereditary estates. Crisp has none of that. He's a solicitor, a commoner, building a castle. People think he's mad. The gardens, Crisp's obsession. While the mansion is being built, Crisp focuses on the gardens. This is where his obsession reaches insanity. The Alpine garden. Crisp wants to recreate the Swiss Alps in miniature on his 62 acres. How? Import 7,000 tons of stone from Yorkshire, northern England, to create rocky outcrops, cliffs, miniature mountains. Build waterfalls, artificial but designed to look natural. Create underground caves and grottos with hidden entrances, secret passages, stalactites, artificial. Plant alpine flora, flowers, shrubs, grasses from the Alps. Requires precise soil composition, drainage, and microclimates. Install irrigation system, pipes hidden underground to water plants, create streams. The result? A landscape that looks like a miniature Swiss mountainside. Rocky peaks, cascading water, alpine flowers, caves carved into hillsides. Visitors describe it as breathtaking, surreal, uncanny, beautiful but unsettling, nature recreated too perfectly. The Gnome Army. Crisp places hundreds of garden gnomes throughout the estate, not just in the gardens, everywhere. On the roof of the mansion, gnomes peering from turrets. Inside caves, gnomes hiding in shadows. Around ponds and waterfalls, gnomes fishing, sitting. Along pathways, gnomes watching visitors. The gnomes are not cute. Victorian garden gnomes are grotesque, exaggerated features, large noses, pointed ears, bulging eyes, weathered and moss-covered, adding to the eerie effect. Critics call the garden vulgar, childish, disturbing. Crisp calls it whimsical. But there's something dark in the whimsy. The gnomes feel like they're watching. The caves feel too hidden. The inscriptions feel ironic. The Latin inscriptions. Crisp carves Latin phrases into stone throughout the estate. Examples: Hic habitat felicitas. Here dwells happiness.
Carved above a cave entrance. Ironic? Sincere? Unclear. Multum in parvo. Much in little. Crisp's motto: a small space, 62 acres, containing a vast world, Alps, caves, gardens. Amici non animae moriuntur. Friends do not die. Carved near a statue. Haunting given Crisp has no family, few friends. These inscriptions add to the uncanny atmosphere. Are they sincere, ironic, a joke, a warning? No one knows. Crisp never explains. The cost. Between 1889 and 1996, Crisp spends his entire fortune building Friar Park. Total cost, estimated: mansion, £60,000, gardens, £40,000 plus, total £100,000 1890s equals $15 million today. Crisp's annual legal income, £5,000 to £10,000 per year, roughly $750,000 to $1.5 million today. He can afford to build it, but he cannot afford to maintain it. By 1896, Friar Park is complete. Frank Crisp is 53 years old. He has built his masterpiece. He moves in, alone. No wife, no children, no family. Just Crisp, his servants, his gardens, and his gnomes. The maintenance nightmare. Friar Park requires constant upkeep. Gardens. Alpine plants need daily care, watering, pruning, replanting. They're not native to England, many die. Waterfalls need pumps, mechanical, break frequently. Caves need cleaning, moss, algae grow, block passages. Gnomes need repair, weather damages them. Mansion, 60 to 80 rooms need heating, cleaning, and maintenance. Roof leaks, Gothic architecture, complex roof design. Stone exterior needs repair, English weather erodes stone. Staff, Crisp employs 20-plus servants, gardeners, housekeepers, cooks, and maintenance workers. Annual staff cost £2,000 to £3,000 per year, roughly $300,000 to $450,000 today. Total annual cost to maintain Friar Park estimated £5,000 to £7,000, 1900s, 1910s, equals $750,000 to $1 million today. Crisp's annual income by 1900, £5,000 to £8,000 per year, still working as solicitor, but aging, slowing down. The math barely works. And Crisp keeps spending on the gardens, adding new features, more waterfalls, more caves, importing rare plants, expensive, often die, repairing damage, winter storms, floods. Every year he spends more than he earns. Every year his savings shrink. The isolation. Crisp has no family. He has few friends. His eccentricity alienates people. He's obsessed with his garden. He spends hours every day wandering the estate, checking on plants, adjusting waterfalls, rearranging gnomes, writing in his journals detailed notes on plant growth, weather, maintenance. He's alone with his creation, and the creation is consuming him. Visitors describe Crisp in his later years: obsessive, distracted, talking to the gnomes, convinced the garden is alive. Is he going mad? Or is obsession indistinguishable from madness? Financial collapse. By 1910, Crisp is running out of money. He has spent nearly his entire fortune on Friar Park. His legal income is declining. He's 67, semi-retired. He begins selling assets: stocks, bonds, liquidating investments, valuables from the mansion, art, furniture, land, sells portions of the 62 acres to developers. But he cannot sell Friar Park itself. Why? Who would buy it? It's too big, too eccentric, too expensive to maintain. Crisp cannot leave. His life is Friar Park. To sell it would be to admit failure. He's trapped in his masterpiece.
January 24th, 1919. Frank Crisp dies at Friar Park, age 76. Cause and death: natural causes, old age, possibly heart failure. He dies alone, no family at his bedside, just servants. His estate, financial, nearly nothing. He spent everything on Friar Park. His heirs, distant relatives, inherit the mansion, unsellable; the gardens, unaffordable to maintain; debts, outstanding bills to contractors, suppliers. His heirs try to sell Friar Park. There are no buyers. Who wants a 60, 80-room Gothic mansion with a grotesque garden that costs £5,000 per year to maintain? No one. 1919. Friar Park is abandoned. Within months of Crisp's death, Friar Park is abandoned. The staff is dismissed. Heirs can't pay them. The mansion is locked. The gardens are left to grow wild. And for the next 51 years, Friar Park will sit empty, decaying, vandalized, haunted. For half a century, Friar Park becomes a ruin. What happens during abandonment? The mansion: roof leaks, water damage, mold; windows broken, vandals, weather; interior decay, wallpaper peeling, floors rotting; squatters occasionally break in, homeless, vandals; furniture stolen or destroyed. The gardens: Alpine plants die, no maintenance; waterfalls stop, pumps break, no one repairs; caves fill with debris, leaves, branches, trash; gnomes vandalized, toppled, broken, stolen; weeds overtake everything. By 1970, Friar Park looks like a Gothic horror film set. Overgrown vines covering mansion, shattered windows, headless gnomes scattered in weeds, caves black and forbidding, Latin inscriptions barely visible under moss. The haunted reputation. Locals avoid Friar Park. Why? It looks haunted. Gothic mansion, overgrown, decaying. Strange sounds, wind through broken windows, water in caves. Sounds like voices. Gnomes, vandalized, broken gnomes with grotesque faces, unsettling in daylight, terrifying at night. Crisp's ghost. Locals claim to see a figure wandering the gardens at night, likely trespassers, but the legend persists. Children dare each other to approach Friar Park. None stay long. The estate becomes a local legend. Friar Park is cursed. The man who built it went mad and died broke. Anyone who enters will be driven mad too. This is not true, but it will become true. Attempts to save it. Over 51 years, 1919 to 1970, multiple attempts are made to sell or repurpose Friar Park. 1920s, heirs listed for sale, no buyers. 1930s, consider converting to hotel,
too expensive to renovate. 1940s, World War II, considered for military use, hospital, command center, rejected, too decayed, too remote. 1950s, proposed as school or institution, rejected, maintenance costs prohibitive. 1960s, developers considered demolishing mansion, subdividing land for housing, blocked by local preservation groups. The mansion is historic, even if derelict. By 1970, Friar Park is still standing, but barely. It needs a buyer with three things: money, millions to restore; vision, see beauty in the ruin; obsession, willing to spend years restoring another man's dream. In 1970, that buyer appears. His name is George Harrison. February 25, 1943, George Harrison is born in Liverpool, England. He is the youngest of 4 children, working-class family. His father is a bus driver. His mother is a housewife. George is quiet, introspective, musical. At age 13, he meets Paul McCartney. Paul introduces him to John Lennon. In 1960, at age 17, George joins the Beatles. 1960 to 1970, Beatlemania, fame as prison. Between 1960 and 1970, the Beatles become the most famous band in history. The scale of their fame is unprecedented. Screaming fans at every concert. Can't hear the music over screaming. Constant media surveillance, paparazzi, tabloids, no privacy. Fans break into hotels, homes. Death threats. John Lennon receives hundreds. Touring exhaustion, 200-plus concerts a year in peak years. By 1966, the Beatles stopped touring entirely. They cannot perform live. The crowds are too dangerous. George Harrison is 26 years old, and he is already exhausted. Harrison's crisis. Of the 4 Beatles, George is the quietest. John Lennon, the leader, the provocateur. Paul McCartney, the charmer, the perfectionist; Ringo Starr, the comedian, the steady one; George Harrison, the quiet Beatle. George doesn't want fame. He wants music, peace, meaning. But fame is suffocating him. Symptoms of Harrison's crisis, mid-1960s. Spiritual seeking. Travels to India, 1966. Studies with Ravi Shankar, sitar master. Explores Hinduism, meditation, transcendence. Drug use. LSD, seeking enlightenment through psychedelics, common in 1960s counterculture. Withdrawal. Spends less time with other Beatles, more time alone. Resentment. Lennon and McCartney dominate songwriting. George's songs are often rejected or relegated to B-sides. George Harrison is trapped. Fame brought wealth, but it also brought surveillance, pressure, loss of self. He needs to escape. 1969, the Beatles collapse. In 1969, the Beatles are falling apart. John and Paul fighting over creative control, business disputes, management, money, personal tensions, Yoko Ono's presence, jealousies. September 1969, John Lennon privately tells the band he's leaving, not announced publicly until 1970. April 1970, Paul McCartney announces the Beatles have broken up. George Harrison is 27 years old, and he is free. Free from the band, free from touring, free from Beatlemania, but also lost. What does he do now? 1970, George discovers Friar Park. In early 1970, George Harrison is looking for a home. He has money, millions from Beatles record sales, royalties, investments, but he doesn't want a London townhouse, too public, paparazzi. He doesn't want a modern mansion, too sterile. He wants privacy, acreage, walls and gates, history, old building, character. Meaning, something spiritual, transcendent. His real estate agent shows him Friar Park. The first visit. George drives to Henley-on-Thames, approaches the iron gates. They're rusted, chained shut. The agent has a key. They unlock the gates, drive up the overgrown driveway, and George sees it. A Gothic mansion, towers crumbling, windows shattered, vines covering stone, garden gnomes toppled in weeds. The agent says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison, I know it's in rough shape. We can look at other properties." George interrupts. "This is it." The agent is confused. "What?" "George, this is it. I'll buy it." Why Harrison fell in love? What did George see that no one else did? 1. He saw Frank Crisp's vision. George walked the ruined gardens, saw the Alpine rock formations, the caves, filled with debris but intact, the waterfalls, dry but structurally sound, the gnomes, broken but salvageable. He understood. Someone built this with obsessive love. George recognized himself in Crisp, both artists, both perfectionists, both seeking transcendence through creation. 2. He saw isolation. 62 acres, stone walls, gates, far from London, far from paparazzi. Friar Park could be a fortress. 3. He saw a mission. George Harrison needed purpose after the Beatles. Restoring Friar Park would be his next project, his magnum opus. Not music, architecture, gardens, history. He would become Frank Crisp reborn. The purchase. Price, £140,000, 1970 pounds, equals roughly $2.5 million today. This is a bargain. The estate is worth far more, if restored. Why so cheap? It's a ruin, needs millions in restoration. No one else wants it, been on the market for decades. Seller desperate, heirs want it off their hands. George pays cash. January 1970, George Harrison becomes the owner of Friar Park, and his obsession begins. George Harrison moves into Friar Park in 1970. The mansion is barely habitable. No heat, boiler broken for 50 years. No running water in most rooms, pipes rusted. Roof leaks everywhere. Electrical wiring dangerous, 1890s wiring, fire hazard. George doesn't care. He lives in a few rooms on the ground floor, heated with portable heaters, makeshift plumbing, and he begins restoring. The restoration process. Phase 1, structural repairs, 1970 to 1973. George hires contractors to fix the roof, replace tiles, repair leaks, repair windows, replace shattered glass, restore frames, restore plumbing, replace pipes throughout mansion, restore electrical, rewire entire building, modern systems, restore heating, install new boiler, radiators. Cost, Phase 1, estimated £500,000 plus $8 million today. Phase 2, interior restoration, 1973 to 1976. Once the mansion is structurally sound, George restores interiors. Wood paneling, repair and refinish. Floors, replace rotted boards, restore parquet. Stained glass, repair broken windows, recreate missing panels. Carvings, restore grotesques and gargoyles. Furniture, purchase period-appropriate pieces. George is obsessive. He supervises every detail, just like Crisp did. He researches Victorian architecture, Gothic design. He insists on authenticity, no modern shortcuts. Cost, Phase 2, estimated £1 million plus $15 million today. Phase 3, garden restoration, 1974-1978. The gardens are George's obsession. He spends more time on the gardens than the mansion. Tasks: clear 51 years of overgrowth, weeds, dead trees, debris. Repair waterfalls, restore pumps, rebuild rockwork. Clean caves, remove debris, restore passages. Replant Alpine garden, import plants from Switzerland. restore gnomes, repair broken ones, purchase replacements, restore pathways, repair stone steps, clear trails. George does much of this work himself. He hires gardeners, but he works alongside them. He spends 8 to 10 hours a day in the gardens, weeding, planting, digging. Friends visit and find him covered in dirt, exhausted, happy. This is not just restoration. This is therapy. George Harrison is healing from Beatlemania by obsessing over Friar Park, just like Frank Crisp healed from the stress of law by obsessing over Friar Park. The parallel is exact. The irony. George bought Friar Park to escape fame, escape pressure, escape being a Beatle. But he replaces one obsession, music, fame, with another, Friar Park. He is free from fans, but he is not free from obsession. He has become Frank Crisp, and like Crisp, he will never leave Friar Park. George's life at Friar Park, 1970–1978. Music. George builds a recording studio in the mansion, 1973, records solo albums at Friar Park, All Things Must Pass, Living in the Material World, others. Writes songs inspired by Friar Park, references gardens, caves, peace. Spirituality. Meditates in the gardens, studies Hindu texts in the library, believes Friar Park is a spiritual sanctuary. Relationships. Marries Patty Boyd, 1966 to 1977, divorces, she leaves him for Eric Clapton. Marries Olivia Arias, 1978, stays married until death. Son, Donnie Harrison, born 1978. Isolation. Rarely leaves Friar Park, few visitors, close friends only, Eric Clapton, Ringo Starr, Tom Petty. Media describes him as reclusive. George doesn't care. He has found peace. For 29 years, 1970 to 1999, Friar Park is George Harrison's sanctuary. And then, on December 30th, 1999, Sanctuary becomes a crime scene. By 1978, George Harrison has spent 8 years restoring Friar Park. The mansion is habitable, beautiful even. The gardens are recovering, waterfalls flow, alpine plants bloom, gnomes stand watch. George is 35 years old, and for the first time since the Beatles, he feels at peace. The new family. September 2nd, 1978, George marries Olivia Trinidad Arias, Olivia Harrison. Olivia is different from his first wife, Patty. Not famous, worked as secretary at A&M Records, not seeking spotlight, spiritual, practices meditation, shares George's Hindu interests. Strong, independent, not intimidated by George's fame. August 1st, 1978, 1 month before the wedding, their son Donnie Harrison is born. George is ecstatic. For the first time, Friar Park is a home, not just a project. The Harrison family. George, musician, gardener, obsessive restorer. Olivia, wife, mother, manager of estate. Donnie, son, growing up in Gothic mansion surrounded by gnomes. They live quietly. No parties, George hates crowds, few visitors, close friends only, Ringo Starr, Eric Clapton, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan. No press, George refuses interviews about Friar Park. Locals in Henley-on-Thames know George lives there, but Friar Park remains mysterious. The gates stay closed, the walls keep the world out. For 21 years, 1978 to 1999, this arrangement works. George creates music, Olivia raises Donnie, the gardens grow. It seems perfect. It is not. While George finds peace at Friar Park, he also becomes increasingly isolated. The music declines. 1970s, George releases successful solo albums. All Things Must Pass, 1970, triple album, massive success. Living in the Material World, 1973, hit album. And My Sweet Lord, 1970, #1 single. 1980s, George's output slows. Somewhere in England, 1981, Gone Troppo, 1982, commercial failure. Long gap with no albums, 1982 to 1987. 1987, George joins the Traveling Wilburys, a supergroup with Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, and Roy Orbison. Success, but temporary. 1990s, minimal output. Cloud 9, 1987, last major solo album. Beatles Anthology Project, 1995 to 1996, reunites with Paul and Ringo to finish unreleased Beatles songs. Few new songs after 1990. Why the decline? George later says, "I don't need to make records to prove anything. I have Friar Park, I have my family. That's enough." But critics wonder, has Friar Park consumed him? Has he replaced the obsession of fame with the obsession of isolation? The paranoia. By the 1990s, George is increasingly paranoid about security. Reasons. 1. John Lennon's murder, 1980. December 8, 1980, John Lennon is shot and killed outside his New York apartment by Mark David Chapman, obsessed fan. George is devastated and terrified. If they killed John, they could kill me. George increases security at Friar Park, higher walls, adds additional fencing, more cameras, installs CCTV. Security patrols, hires guards to patrol grounds at night, reinforced gates, electronic locks, intercom system. 2. Stalkers. George receives threats, letters from obsessed fans, "I must meet you or I'll die." Religious fanatics, "You blasphemed with my sweet Lord, you must repent." Mentally ill individuals, "God told me to find you." Most are harmless, but some are disturbing. 3. Break-in attempts. Several times in the 1980s, 1990s, fans or trespassers attempt to climb walls, break through gates. Security stops them, police are called, George presses charges. But the attempts continue. George becomes convinced Friar Park is not safe. Olivia disagrees. "George, you're overreacting. The security is fine. We're safe here." George insists. John thought he was safe too. The paranoia grows. But George refuses to leave Friar Park. He has spent millions restoring it, 30 years living there. It's his sanctuary. He will not abandon it. The health decline, 1997 to 1999. In 1997, George is diagnosed with throat cancer. Cause, decades of smoking. George smoked heavily from the 1960s to 1990s. Treatment, surgery, radiation, cancer is removed. George is declared cancer-free, but the cancer will return. 1998, George is diagnosed with lung cancer, separate from throat cancer. More surgery, more radiation. Again, declared cancer-free. George believes he has beaten it. He's wrong. 1999, the final year before the attack. By 1999, George is 56 years old. He has survived 2 cancer diagnoses. He is weak but alive. He spends most of his time at Friar Park, gardening, still obsessive about the Alpine plants, meditating, daily practice in the gardens, writing music, occasionally in his studio, time with Olivia and Donnie. Donnie is 21, studying physics at university. To outsiders, George seems at peace. To Olivia, he seems increasingly fragile. To himself, George knows something is wrong. The cancer is coming back. He feels it, but he says nothing because admitting it means confronting mortality, and George Harrison is not ready to die. Not yet. He has too much left to do at Friar Park. The gardens need work, the waterfalls need repair, the gnomes need repositioning. There is always more to do. Frank Crisp died obsessing over Friar Park. George Harrison will too, but not from cancer. December 30th, 1999. George and Olivia are asleep in their bedroom on the second floor of Friar Park. The time is approximately 3:30 a.m. Outside, the estate is dark. The gardens are silent. The gates are locked. But someone is already inside. The intruder, Michael Abram. Michael Abram is 33 years old. He lives in Liverpool, England, same city where George was born. Background: unemployed, lives with his mother, history of mental illness, paranoid schizophrenia, though not officially diagnosed until later. Drug use, marijuana, possibly other substances. Abram's delusion. In the weeks leading up to December 30th, 1999, Michael Abram becomes convinced George Harrison is a witch. He has possessed me. He controls my thoughts. I must kill him to free myself and save the world. This is paranoid schizophrenia, a severe mental illness causing delusions, hallucinations, loss of touch with reality. Abram is not treated. He has no medication, no psychiatric care. December 29th, 1999. Abram tells his mother, "I'm going to Henley to kill George Harrison." His mother thinks he's joking or high. She doesn't call police. Abram leaves Liverpool, drives 200+ miles to Henley-on-Thames. How he got inside. Friar Park has stone walls, 10 feet high, electronic gates, locked, monitored, CCTV cameras covering main entrances, security patrols, guards check perimeter nightly. But the estate is 62 acres, impossible to secure every inch. Abram finds a spot. Side of the property, less monitored, trees near wall, provides cover. Climbs the wall, athletic, determined, insane. He drops into the gardens. The alarm does not trigger. Motion sensors don't cover entire garden. Too expensive, too many false alarms from animals. Abram approaches the mansion. He finds a window. Ground floor, kitchen area, unlocked. Harrison's staff occasionally forget to lock side windows. Abram climbs through. He is inside Friar Park. 3:30 a.m. George and Olivia are asleep upstairs. Abram searches for them. The bedroom. Abram climbs the main staircase. The mansion is dark, silent. He finds the master bedroom, second floor, east wing. The door is unlocked. George and Olivia never lock their bedroom door. They feel safe inside Friar Park. Abram opens the door. He sees George Harrison, 56 years old, asleep in bed. Olivia Harrison, 51 years old, beside him, asleep. Abram is holding a kitchen knife taken from Friar Park's kitchen, 7-inch blade. He approaches the bed and he begins stabbing. The attack. George wakes to pain, sharp, burning pain in his chest. He sees a man standing over him. The man is stabbing him repeatedly. George screams, "Hare Krishna! Hare Krishna!" George's Hindu mantra, he chants it reflexively, believing it will protect him. It does not. Abram continues stabbing. Chest, multiple wounds. Neck, slashing. Head, stabbing into the scalp. Olivia wakes. She sees the attacker, sees George covered in blood. She does not freeze. Olivia fights back. Olivia Harrison is 51 years old, 5'4", 120 pounds. Michael Abram is 33 years old, 6'0", 180 pounds plus, Insane, armed with a knife, Olivia attacks him anyway. She grabs a lamp from the bedside table, heavy, brass, Victorian-era lamp. She swings it at Abram's head. It connects. Abram staggers, but he doesn't fall. He turns toward Olivia, raises the knife. George, bleeding, lunges from the bed. He tackles Abram. They fall to the floor. Abram stabs George again. Back, blade into shoulder. Arms, defensive wounds as George tries to block. Olivia runs from the room. She needs a weapon, something heavier. She grabs a fireplace poker from the hallway. Iron, heavy, medieval-looking, Gothic mansion, Gothic weapons. She returns to the bedroom. George and Abram are wrestling on the floor. Olivia raises the poker. She strikes Abram across the back, the head, the shoulders, again, again, again. She is screaming, crying, beating him. Abram collapses, unconscious, bleeding from head wounds. Olivia drops the poker, runs to George. George's condition. George is lying on the floor, covered in blood. Wounds. 40-plus stab wounds. Later medical examination confirms this. Some sources say 30-plus, others 40-plus. Exact count unclear due to overlapping wounds. Chest. Multiple puncture wounds. One missed his heart by centimeters. Neck. Deep slashing wounds. Head. Stab wounds to the scalp. Arms and hands. Defensive wounds. Lung punctured, bleeding into chest cavity. He is conscious, barely. He looks at Olivia. "I'm dying, aren't I?" Olivia, "No, no, you're not. Stay with me." She calls 999, UK Emergency Services. "My husband has been stabbed multiple times. We need an ambulance, now." Operator, "Where are you?" "Friar Park, Henley-on-Thames, George Harrison, the Beatle. Someone broke in and stabbed him. Please hurry." Police and ambulance arrive. 3:47 a.m. Police arrive, 17 minutes after 999 call. Friar Park is remote. Nearest station is miles away. Officers find George Harrison on bedroom floor, massive blood loss, conscious but fading. Olivia Harrison, covered in blood, George's, some her own from minor cuts, in shock. Michael Abram, unconscious, head injuries from Olivia's attack. 3:52 a.m., ambulance arrives. Paramedics assess George. Pulse, weak, rapid, massive blood loss, breathing, labored, punctured lung, consciousness, fading. They intube him, breathing tube, start IV fluids, prepare for transport. 4:10 a.m., air ambulance arrives, helicopter, faster than ground ambulance to hospital. George is airlifted to Royal Berkshire Hospital, 20 miles away, trauma center. Olivia accompanies him. Michael Abram is arrested, also transported to hospital under police guard for head injuries. Surgery. Royal Berkshire Hospital, 5 a.m. George is rushed into emergency surgery. Surgical team, thoracic surgeon, chest wounds, punctured lung, vascular surgeon, neck wounds, blood vessels, general surgeon, other wounds. Procedures, repair punctured lung, collapsed, bleeding into chest, repair blood vessels in neck, slashing wounds, severed minor vessels, closed chest wounds, 40-plus stab wounds, many deep, suture head wounds, blood transfusion, massive blood loss. Surgery lasts 4+ hours. George survives, but barely. The physical recovery. January 1st through 7th, 2000, George remains in hospital, intensive care, then recovery ward. Injuries heal. Lung reinflates. Wound closes. Stab wounds close. Extensive scarring. Neck wounds heal. No major nerve damage, fortunately. January 8th, 2000, George is discharged from hospital. He returns to Friar Park. Physically, George recovers. Psychologically, he never will. The psychological trauma. After the attack, George Harrison is broken. Symptoms of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. 1. Nightmares. Dreams of being stabbed. He wakes up screaming, sweating. Olivia finds him in the middle of the night, reliving the attack. 2. Hypervigilance. Cannot sleep without checking locks multiple times. Installs additional security cameras, entire house now under surveillance. Keeps weapons near bed, cricket bat, knife. Ironic given what happened. Startles at any unexpected sound. 3. Avoidance. Cannot enter the bedroom where attack occurred, moves to different bedroom, never uses that room again. Avoids being alone, even at Friar Park, needs Olivia or staff nearby constantly. Cannot meditate in gardens anymore, feels exposed, vulnerable. 4. Survivor's guilt. Blames himself. I should have locked the window. I should have better security. This is my fault. Olivia tries to tell him it's not his fault. He doesn't believe her. 5. Loss of sanctuary. Friar Park was George's refuge for 30 years. Now it's the place where he was nearly murdered. He wants to leave, but he can't. Where would he go? The statement. January 10, 2000, George releases a public statement written by Olivia, approved by George. I would like to thank everyone for their concern. Olivia and I are recovering. We are grateful to the police, paramedics, and hospital staff who saved my life. The man who attacked us was clearly mentally ill. I bear him no ill will. We ask for privacy as we heal. The media seizes on, I bear him no ill will. The public is outraged. He nearly killed you and you forgive him? But George is sincere, his Hindu beliefs. Hatred does not cease by hatred, only by love. The man was sick, not evil. Publicly, George forgives. Privately, he is terrified, traumatized, shattered. Michael Abram, the trial. February 2000, Michael Abram is charged with attempted murder, George Harrison, and aggravated burglary. Psychiatric evaluation. Court-appointed psychiatrists examine Abram. Diagnosis: paranoid schizophrenia, severe, untreated. Conclusion: Abram genuinely believed George Harrison was a witch possessing him. He was insane at the time of the attack. November 2000, trial begins. Abram's defense: not guilty by reason of insanity. Prosecution: accepts insanity defense, psychiatric evidence overwhelming. November 16, 2000, verdict: not guilty of attempted murder by reason of insanity. Sent to secure psychiatric hospital, indefinite detention. George's reaction: publicly, I'm glad he's getting treatment. Privately to friends, he should be in prison forever.
Abram's release. 2002. After less than 2 years in a psychiatric hospital, Michael Abram is released. Reason: psychiatrists determine he is medicated, antipsychotic drugs, no longer delusional, not a danger to himself or others. Conditions of release: must continue medication, must attend regular psychiatric appointments, restraining order, cannot go within 100 miles of Friar Park. George is furious. 2 years? He stabbed me 40 times and he gets 2 years? Olivia is terrified. What if he stops taking his medication? What if he comes back? Security at Friar Park is increased again. Armed guards 24/7, attack dogs patrolling grounds at night, panic buttons in every room, direct line to police, any alarm triggers immediate response. Friar Park is now a fortress, but George still doesn't feel safe. May 2001, George is diagnosed with brain cancer, metastatic, spread from earlier lung cancer. The cancer has spread. Brain, multiple tumors, lungs, returned despite earlier surgery. Prognosis: terminal.
months, not years. Treatment, radiation, chemotherapy, but doctors are not optimistic. George knows he is dying. Did the attack cause the cancer spread? Medical consensus, impossible to prove causally, but some believe the trauma of the attack may have accelerated cancer progression. George himself believed this. To close friend 2001, "The attack killed me. It just took 2 years." Summer, fall 2001, George undergoes aggressive treatment. July 2001, travels to Switzerland, experimental cancer treatment. Doesn't work. October 2001, travels to New York, cancer clinic. Doesn't work. November 2001, returns to Los Angeles, stays with a friend close to UCLA Medical Center. George is in constant pain. Brain tumors cause headaches, confusion, memory loss. Lung cancer causes breathing difficulty, coughing blood. Chemotherapy causes nausea, weakness, hair loss. He is dying, and he knows it. November 12, 2001, Paul McCartney visits George in Los Angeles. They have been estranged for years, business disputes, personal tensions from the Beatles breakup. Paul later describes the visit. "We talked, we laughed, we cried. I told him I loved him. He told me he loved me. We said goodbye." It is the last time Paul sees George alive. November 25 to 28, 2001, George is moved to a friend's home in Los Angeles, more comfortable than hospital. Present, Olivia, wife, Donnie, son age 23, close friends, Ravi Shankar, others. George is barely conscious. In and out of awareness, moments of lucidity, speaks to Olivia, Donnie, mostly sleeping, breathing labored. November 28, 2001, George slips into a coma. November 29, 2001, George Harrison dies. Time, 1:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Location, Los Angeles, California, not Friar Park. George could not bear to die there. Cause, lung cancer metastatic to brain. Age, 58 years old. Present at death, Olivia holding his hand, Donnie crying. George's last words hours before coma to Olivia: "I love you. Don't cry. Everything passes. This is just another step." Hindu belief, death is not an end, it is a transition, rebirth. George believed he would be reborn, but not at Friar Park, never again at Friar Park. The funeral. George's body is cremated, Hindu tradition. Memorial service, private, close friends and family only. No public funeral. George hated publicity. Ashes, scattered in the Ganges River, India, sacred to Hindus. George's estate, financial, estimated $400 million, music royalties, real estate, investments. Primary heir, Olivia Harrison, wife. Also inherits Donnie Harrison, son. And they inherit Friar Park. Olivia Harrison is 53 years old when George dies. She is a widow, a mother, and the owner of Friar Park. She does not want it, but she cannot sell it. Why Olivia cannot sell Friar Park? 1. George's will. George's will includes provisions about Friar Park. Olivia has lifetime rights to live there. Donnie inherits upon Olivia's death. Estate cannot be sold without both Olivia and Donnie's consent. George wanted Friar Park to stay in the family. Even in death, he is obsessed with it. 2. Public legacy. Friar Park is George Harrison's legacy. Fans know he lived there, restored it, nearly died there. If Olivia sells Friar Park, media backlash, Widow sells George's dream home. Fan outrage. How could she? George's legacy tarnished. Olivia feels obligated to preserve it. 3. Emotional attachment. Despite the trauma, Olivia has memories. 23 years married to George, 1978 to 2001, raising Donnie there, George's music created there, gardens George loved. Selling Friar Park would be abandoning George. Olivia cannot do it. 4. Financial reality. Who would buy Friar Park? 62 acres, 120 rooms, or 60 to 80, sources vary. Annual maintenance estimated £500,000 to £1 million, or $650,000 to $1.3 million today. Buyer pool? Billionaires only. Estimated value 20 to 30 million pounds, or 25 to 40 million dollars. But estate is notorious site of knife attack, requires massive upkeep, gardens, mansions, security, no privacy. Fans constantly try to break in, see where George lived. Who wants to buy a murder scene that costs £1 million per year to maintain? Almost no one. Olivia's life at Friar Park, 2001 to present. Olivia still lives at Friar Park, 23 years after George's death. She is now 76 years old. Her life? 1. Maintaining the estate. Employs 10 to 15 staff, gardeners, housekeepers, security. Oversees repairs, roof, plumbing, gardens, constant. Pays property taxes, insurance, utilities. Cost, estimated £500,000 plus per year, funded by George's estate, music royalties. 2. Preserving George's legacy. Manages George's music catalog, reissues, remasters, oversees documentaries. George Harrison, Living in the Material World, 2011, directed by Martin Scorsese, manages Friar Park Studios, occasionally rents to musicians, protects George's privacy, no tours, no public access to Friar Park. 3. Living with trauma. Olivia has never publicly discussed details of the attack beyond official statements. Friends say she has nightmares, PTSD, like George. She avoids the bedroom where the attack occurred, like George did. Security remains extreme. Guards, cameras, dogs. 4. Isolation. Olivia rarely leaves Friar Park, few public appearances, lives mostly alone. Donnie visits but lives elsewhere, Los Angeles, pursuing music career. No remarriage. Some widows remarry. Olivia has not. Few visitors. Close friends only. Olivia Harrison is trapped at Friar Park, not by chains, by obligation, memory, and trauma. Just like Frank Crisp was trapped, just like George Harrison was trapped, Friar Park consumes everyone. As of 2024, Friar Park remains closed to the public. No tours, no visitors, no access. The gates are locked, the walls are high, security cameras watch every approach. Locals in Henley-on-Thames know it's there, but they've never seen inside. The rumors. Because Friar Park is secret, rumors persist. 1. Olivia is going mad like Crisp and George did. No evidence, but people speculate. 2. The estate is decaying again. Partially true. Gardens require constant upkeep. Some sections are overgrown, insufficient staff to maintain 62 acres perfectly. 3. It's haunted. Locals claim to see figures in the gardens at night. Likely security guards or shadows, but legend persists. 4. Michael Abram will return. No evidence. Abram has not violated restraining order as far as public records show, but Olivia's security suggests she believes it's possible. 5. Friar Park is cursed. This is the most persistent rumor. 3 people consumed by it. Crisp died broke, George, nearly murdered, died young, Olivia, trapped as widow. Pattern suggests curse, but it's psychology, not supernatural.
Friar Park is not supernaturally cursed, but it is psychologically toxic. Why? 1. Isolation breeds obsession. 62 acres, stone walls, no neighbors, no oversight. When you live in total isolation, obsession grows unchecked. Crisp obsessed over gardens, spent fortune, died broke. George, obsessed over restoration, became a recluse, was attacked. Olivia, obsessed over preserving George's legacy, cannot leave, trapped. Friar Park enables obsession, and obsession kills. 2. Size creates maintenance hell. 120 rooms, or 60 to 80, 62 acres of gardens. No individual can maintain this, but owners try. Crisp spent every penny trying. George spent years restoring. Olivia spends £500,000 plus per year maintaining. The estate demands everything and gives nothing back. 3. Privacy becomes prison. Friar Park offers total privacy. This sounds desirable, but total privacy equals total isolation. Crisp lived alone, died alone. George lived isolated, was attacked in isolation, no one nearby to help immediately. Olivia lives isolated, cannot escape. The walls that keep the world out also keep the owners in. 4. Beauty attracts obsession. Friar Park is objectively beautiful. Gothic architecture, stunning. Alpine gardens, unique in England. Grotesque details, whimsical, artistic. But beauty this extreme attracts obsessive personalities. Crisp, obsessive lawyer, perfectionist gardener. George, obsessive musician, perfectionist restorer. Olivia, obsessive widow, perfectionist legacy preserver. Normal people don't buy Friar Park, obsessives do. Frank Crisp paid. Financial. Entire fortune, £100,000 equals $15 million today, spent building and maintaining Friar Park. Died nearly penniless, 1919. Personal. No family, never married, no children, too obsessed with the estate. No friends, alienated by eccentricity, died alone at 76. Legacy. Estate abandoned immediately after death, forgotten for 51 years, remembered only because George Harrison bought it. Crisp's ruin, built a paradise, died broke and alone in it. George Harrison paid. Financial. £10 million restoring Friar Park, 1970 to 1980s, equals $150 million in lifetime spending. Ongoing costs, 1970 to 2001, £500,000 per year times 31 years equals £15.5 million, or $230 million total. Personal. Marriage to Patty failed, partially due to Friar Park isolation, became reclusive, lost connection to friends and public. Attacked December 30th, 1999, stabbed 40 times, nearly died. Cancer spread, possibly accelerated by trauma. Died age 58, young, could have lived 20 more years. Psychological. PTSD from the attack, nightmares, hypervigilance, loss of sanctuary. Could never feel safe at Friar Park again. Died away from Friar Park, could not bear to die there. George's ruin? Sought peace, found isolation, violence, and early death. And obsession destroys them. Olivia Harrison paid. Financial. Ongoing costs, 2001 through present, £500,000 plus per year times 23 years equals £11.5 million plus equals $170 million plus
total. Funded by George's estate, music royalties, but depletes inheritance. Personal. Widowed at 53. PTSD from attack. She fought the attacker, saved George, and witnessed horror. Cannot sell Friar Park, George's will, public pressure, emotional attachment. Cannot leave, obligation to preserve George's legacy. Lives mostly alone, 76 years old, isolated in mansion. Psychological. Trapped, cannot escape Friar Park without betraying George's memory. Burdened, maintaining estate, legacy, security, constant pressure. Alone, Donnie visits but lives elsewhere. Olivia has no escape. Olivia's ruin, inherited George's dream, became prisoner of his obsession. Friar Park is beautiful, unique, historically important, but it has destroyed everyone who loved it. Why? 1. Obsession replaces life. Normal people have multiple interests, social connections, balanced priorities. Obsessives have one focus, Friar Park, isolation, estate becomes entire world, imbalanced priorities, spend everything, money, time, and health on obsession. Crisp, George, and Olivia all became consumed. Crisp chose gardens over family, fortune, and future. George chose restoration over music career, social life, and safety. Olivia chose preservation over freedom, remarriage, and new life. Obsession crowds out everything else until nothing remains. 2. Isolation amplifies obsession. Friar Park's isolation, 62 acres, walled and gated, creates a feedback loop. Isolation equals obsession equals more isolation equals deeper obsession equals total isolation equals madness or death. Crisp, isolated at Friar Park, obsessed over gardens, more isolated, died alone. George sought isolation for peace, became obsessed with restoration, more isolated, attacked because isolated, no nearby help. Olivia, inherited isolation, obsessed with preserving legacy, cannot leave, totally isolated. Friar Park's design, walled, private, and vast, makes it impossible to live there without becoming isolated, and isolation breeds obsession. 3. Beauty demands sacrifice. Friar Park is too beautiful to be sustainable. Maintaining beauty this extreme requires constant money, £500,000 plus per year, constant labor, full-time staff, constant attention. Owners must oversee everything. Normal homes don't demand this. Friar Park does, and it consumes those who try to maintain it. Crisp sacrificed fortune to maintain beauty, died broke. George sacrificed health to restore beauty, died young. Olivia sacrifices freedom to preserve beauty, trapped. Beauty this extreme is not a blessing, it's a curse. 4. Size creates vulnerability. 62 acres, 120 rooms, miles of gardens. Impossible to secure completely. Crisp, no security concerns, 1896 through 1919, different era. George installed extensive security, still attacked, too much ground to cover. Olivia, armed guards, dogs, cameras, still fears attack. Large estates are inherently vulnerable. The same size that provides privacy also provides cover for attackers. Michael Abram climbed wall, hid in gardens, entered mansion, all possible because the estate is too large to secure. If George lived in a normal house, the attack might not have happened. Friar Park's grandeur made it a target.
Friar Park is not just a house, it is a cautionary tale. What it teaches. Lesson 1. Obsession kills. Crisp died obsessing over gardens. George died after obsessing over restoration. Olivia is trapped by obsessing over legacy. Obsession, no matter how beautiful as object, consumes life. Lesson 2. Isolation is dangerous. Crisp isolated himself, died alone. George isolated himself, was attacked. Olivia isolated herself, lives in fear. Privacy is valuable, total isolation is deadly. Lesson 3. Beauty has a price. Friar Park's beauty cost Crisp his fortune. Friar Park's beauty cost George his peace. Friar Park's beauty cost Olivia her freedom. Not all beautiful things are worth their price. Lesson 4. Some dreams should die. Crisp's dream, perfect garden, bankrupted him. George's dream, restored sanctuary, led to violence. Olivia's dream, preserve George's legacy, imprisons her. Some dreams are too expensive, too dangerous, too consuming. Better to let them go. As of 2024, Friar Park still stands. The mansion is intact, the gardens are maintained, though imperfectly. The gnomes still watch from the shadows. 3 people have been destroyed by it. Frank Crisp, 1843 to 1919, built it, went broke, died alone. George Harrison, 1943 to 2001, restored it, was attacked, died young. Olivia Harrison, 1948 to present, maintains it, cannot leave, lives isolated. And the estate endures, beautiful, mysterious, waiting. And somewhere behind those stone walls and iron gates, the gnomes still watch, their grotesque faces frozen in permanent grins, as if they know the secret, as if they've always known. Friar Park doesn't belong to its owners belong to Friar Park. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next investigation. If you enjoyed this investigation into obsession, Gothic estates, and the houses that consume their owners, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support makes these detailed stories possible. Tell me in the comments, which mysterious estate should we explore next? Bolt Castle, millionaire's unfinished monument to lost love. Key, Winchester Mystery House, widow built for 38 years to escape ghosts. Moon, Poveglia Island, Venice's abandoned plague island and asylum. Coffin, Chateau de Brissac, France's most haunted castle. These aren't just buildings, they're traps, beautiful, expensive traps that destroy everyone who enters. Every obsession has its price, every isolation has its danger, every beauty has its curse. Frank Crisp built Friar Park to find happiness. He found bankruptcy and loneliness. George Harrison bought Friar Park to find peace. He found violence and death. Olivia Harrison inherited Friar Park to preserve love. She found imprisonment. The estate endures, beautiful, mysterious, waiting. And somewhere behind those stone walls and iron gates, the gnomes still watch, their grotesque faces frozen in permanent grins, as if they know the secret, as if they always known. Friar Park doesn't belong to its owners belong to Friar Park. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next investigation.